It is Brad White, Executive Director of MDOT in the Trustmark Studios. Trustmark, you'll find a helping hand in times you need a convenient and easy, flexible personal loan or a line of credit that's right for you. Trustmark.com, member FDIC. Morning, Brad. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Good to be with you.
We asked you a question earlier, and I said something about Conway Tweedies on the banks of Moon Lake. You said Conway's birthday today. Didn't you say that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Here's
Harold Jenkins.
Harold Jenkins, that's right. From the C-Spire text line. My daddy, Grover Duke. I haven't heard Grover Duke's name in forever. Remember that? It was Grover Duke and the Cavaliers. My daddy, Grover Duke, had a dance band and played at Conway's in the late 60s, if memory serves me right. They played like on Thursday nights. I think it's exactly right. Have another story, but need to confirm facts before I share it. Please do. Thank you very, very much. All right, let's first of all get this one out of the way. 2 people killed, at least 10 others were injured in a portion of Highway 26 near Lucedale. Collapsed on Monday night as Hurricane Ida swept through Mississippi. The people have been identified now. George County Coroner Deanne Murray said Jerry Lee, 49 years old, of Lucedale, Kent Brown, also 49 of Leakesville, died in the crashes at the site of the collapsed highway. Member of the Lee's family told the reporters Tuesday the family is numb, needs time to process their grief. 4 others walked away or refused medical treatment at the scene. We have any update on that at all, or just
it's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a highway that was kind of built on a hill. That area, in less than 24 hours, had received over 12 inches of rain, and was told if you look at the average yearly rainfall, that area is 200% above where they normally would be.
Jeez.
So you just had a situation where the soil there was just completely saturated.
It just gave way. It was not a creek or anything that running through it. It just gave way.
It was on a hill. There was a culvert involved that tried to help. That normally could keep water, off of the roadway.
Yeah.
But when that embankment slide happened, it just sucked that road out.
Probably there was no way to see that coming.
No, I mean it's just unfortunate. It's in a rural area, late at night, dark. Mm-hmm. And people just couldn't tell what had happened.
We have any reports from Commissioner King as far as what the schedule is on that one?
Yeah, I mean the MDOT crews were gathering survey data yesterday, pulling all of that together. We've got teams down there today that are going to be gathering hydraulic and geotechnical data and information.
Yeah.
And it's going to be from that information that we draw from there to try to develop a plan forward on how to fix it. Obviously, that'll be an emergency contract to try to get it done as quickly as possible because that's a main thoroughfare for that area. It impacts a lot of people, so we don't want it closed down any longer than necessary. Yeah. But based on the information we get from all of these different surveys we're doing yesterday and today, we'll have a course of action forward, and basically it'll end up be a contract that we'll put out for bid and then let and try to get it back open.
But it's routed around. I think some of the George County schools the George County schools did close.
Closed yesterday due to the school bus routes, and I don't think there is as far as the state system goes, a very easy way to reroute traffic.
I was going to say the detour is going to have to be creative in that part of the.
And we're working with I talked with the local supervisor yesterday, and we're working with the local authorities there to try to help find outside of the box ways that we can provide measures to assist.
Been there and done something like that before, and sometimes don't count on your GPS to reroute you first. You get, follow the signs,
right?
Because it's going to be a creative way to get to where you need to get to. Well, 2 people, and again, some folks walked away from that. But as I mentioned earlier this morning, Brad, it's got to be a scary thing just driving.
It is. I don't know if you've seen the pictures.
I have.
It is frightening, and for that to have happened late at night, it was something.
I forgot who it was. It may have been the Clarion. I'm not sure. I read a story on it this morning. Somebody who lives nearby, I don't know if you read that story, heard a loud noise out there, didn't know what was going on. So apparently the cave-in, somebody who lived close to that, it must have made a rumbling, loud noise when that caved in.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine.
All right. We got lots of other things going on in the state. Give me a little bit of an idea of what's happening. And right now, do we have any roads that are still shut down or
By and large, most of our roads are back open on the state system anyway. Our crews have done a really good job. I mean, obviously there's going to be some closures intermittently out there due to flooding that's still happening. We've got a lot of the minor rivers and creeks that have already crested, but Pearl River is expected to do that in the coming days. By and large, most thoroughfares are open on our system. 90 is still in the process of being cleared. I think there's still traffic on it, but there's still a lot of sand and other things there that we're trying to get off. But we've been very proud of the MDOT crews and their preparation for a storm like this. I think the governor has said before, for better or worse, due to our past experiences, one thing the Mississippi first responders do well is prepare and respond to hurricanes and bad weather and emergency situations, and that was certainly made clear by the work of our men and women.
You know, we were talking about this during the Monday show. Every time something like this happens, we build back stronger. We build back in some places where we're the most vulnerable. We don't build back. So we learn hurricane after hurricane.
That's right. That's true.
And that goes for roads and the way we build them as well. How did you guys prepare for this, though? I mean, because and you hate to say this, I don't want to jinx anything, but we really came out a lot lucky, especially for the central part of the state and northward, because we were talking about tropical storm winds here in all the way to Grenada. Yeah. And I don't think we got them. We got winds, as far as I know, probably up to about 30, 35 miles an hour.
Well, again, I can't stress enough how tried and true the district engineers and their teams were through all of this. They immediately went into action in South Mississippi, removing traffic signal boxes, removing drawbridge arms, lowering all the high-mast lights that you would see, anything that could become a hazard or be dangerous or be damaged, in the storm, preparing equipment from gassing up trucks to greasing up chainsaws, strategically placing equipment around the state so that it could be accessed easily where we would expect damage, having contingency plans, backup plans for equipment if needed that would be brought in. I think our crews, the last report I had logged in more than 8,000 man-hours in that 48-hour period of time and going in and doing that. And then them and, the MDOT crews and the power companies people, the linemen, were the first ones to go in because for anyone else to be able to do their job, the roads had to be cleared of power lines and debris. So a lot of our folks, just like all the other emergency responders, left their families at home, sometimes with personal damage at their own property, to go do this job. And they did it very well. We're very proud of them.
Yeah, when you got people leaving from the northern part of the state or in the central part and going down there and the system hasn't even come through here, you're leaving your family not knowing exactly what's going to happen. Well, and that's another part people don't think about.
And the same for those in South Mississippi where the damage is happening the storm's going through their homes and they're at a equipment barn.
Yeah, I see. We were having a conversation off the air, and I want to continue it for a second here because you've been in Washington so long and you were with Thad Cochran and you saw the medical conditions and everything else with Senator Cochran. And I say that because I was reading a story from Megan McCain. She's on the news this morning. And Megan said, here's a guy that helped her out, and it was several years ago when she was going through some problems. But she hardly knows who this man is anymore from the medical decline. And that's worrisome because at some point in that position, somebody's going to have to say, you're not able to do this anymore.
Well, one distinction I'll draw between the president and Senator Cochran is when Senator Cochran's health began failing, Senator Cochran said that himself.
He knew. Yeah.
He said it's time for me to retire, and he made a decision to retire. And at the time, we were in the middle of negotiating an omnibus appropriations bill, and it was getting through that process so he could retire.
Yeah.
But he made that decision himself, recognized it, and knew that it was time for him to go home. Yeah. And so there's a big difference in somebody that serves until they recognize that their health's not going to allow them to and decides to retire, and somebody that's not doing that. So. And
if you look at this, you go back to just a year ago, 2 years ago, and I mean, the decline is just scary.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. I don't want to speculate. I mean, one of the things that I hate about our business is when a lot of folks kind of start making accusations or conversations about things that we don't really know about, and there's always every elected official has loved ones and people that care about them that are collateral damage and those type of things. So I don't want to speculate about that, but we wish the president the best.
Yeah.
But
the other thing, too, is, and I read one story where it's not only Meghan McCain, anybody who's known this guy, and there are people in Washington who's known him for, 50 years, we'll say the same thing. It's just a little bit scary, and is he up to this with all the pressure that he's going through now?
And that's the most pressure any job has.
Absolutely. Cameras. Do we lose some of those, or for people who don't know? And I was going from camera to camera, especially on the Gulf Coast, on the 90 camera and things like that. It's a tremendous asset.
Yeah, it is. I went down to our command center there in MDOT, and they all were working. I was able to watch. I'm sure that there were times where some went out here and there, but and got some repair that may need to be made. But no, it's a very useful tool, not just in times like that, but just with traffic. I've gotten into the habit of looking at them before I leave work to go home, just to find out if Waterworks curve is clogged
You'll be surprised how many people are doing that. Let's take a look at what the flow is right now. Any update on Highway 49?
Things are going along nicely. I think we've got one more section of that in Richland where there's going to have to be some major construction done, where some lanes will be shut down for that to happen. And I'm told that as soon as we complete that we're basically looking at a paving project to try to bring it to completion in the coming months. So
well overdue. I do want to ask you about the funding. What are you hearing as far as the infrastructure bill?
Well, I talked with Congressman Guest, legislative director, last night. She felt hopeful that, or I say hopeful, she felt confident that some type of infrastructure bill would come out of the House of Representatives. Of what it looks like and whether or not it gets through Congress, me personally, it's always a danger when that sausage is being made and what the final product is and whether or not the votes are there to allow it to pass. I'm not going to get into the merits of the bills that are before that passed the Senate or what the House is doing now. We do have a lot of needs that the money could be put to use in. I feel like our responsibility will be, if money comes to us, to spend it efficiently and wisely. Vision 21, which was the last highway program we had 20 years ago, put into law, there's still $4.5 billion worth of capacity projects that the legislature said we want to build these projects that have yet to be built. And that's not counting priorities that may have been identified in the last 20 years. Yeah. That's not counting bridge repair. That's not counting paving projects that could be done. So there's certainly needs there that the money could go to begin work.
You and I talked about one of the things that you wanted to do is put a plan forward. Is that in the making? Is just to take a look at the efficiency and everything else?
We're working on that. The state auditor's office actually had, by edict of the legislature, a performance audit done of MDOT. And I think it's something, one, that MDOT can hang their hat on and be very proud of a lot of the efficiencies that were identified in it. And on most of the areas where they identified inefficiency, in order to correct that, if you want to use that term, we're going to need legislative approval to do so. So we're in the process now of compiling that list or synopsis of that performance audit that we can then take to the legislature and say in things like fleet management or welcome centers or fill in the blank in areas where we could model things after the way other states do it better. We need their help in giving us the flexibility within the law to do it.
I know, talking to some of the commissioners, everybody's on the same accord from just trying to get that plan out for something in the future and have a better template to go by.
That's right. I think the commission works very well together, especially in the big picture of things and the direction. I mean, they want to have an efficient department that's providing a transportation system to the state. There's always going to be discussions on how we best get there, but
that's politics.
That's politics.
Number one, what's the number one thing as far as the goal or the bills that be requested for 2022?
The number one challenge for the department is our pay scale with our engineers. I mean, we just are unable to compete with the private sector in hiring and maintaining and keeping talent there. But then when you even look at our frontline people, the people that were on the road during the storm, removing debris, we lose a lot of those maintenance workers to counties that can pay better money, and they're putting their life on the line in those type situations. So our biggest issue is staff turnover and being able to remedy that. But look, I remember from my time in the governor's office, the same issue the Department of Corrections was having. It's not.
Brad White. Brad is the executive director of MDOT. Brad, how do you intermesh subcontracting some of those things out and having full time?
Well, I think you have to look at. I don't think that it's financially feasible to try to sub out everything because there are some things that can be done better.
It does. I mean, it's an individual basis. Some places it costs you
I think it's just something that you have to analyze and come up with that plan, and we're in the process of looking at that now.
So as far as the weight scale thing, that's all moved over, and
law enforcement is gone. Yeah, they still have the MDOT decals on it, so I still get calls whenever they stop somebody. But you know, the important thing to remember on that too is we've got a lot of federal money tied up where when the feds participate in funding a lot of our highway projects, they're also requiring the state to protect that investment. And so whether MDOT's in charge of the weight enforcement or whether DPS is in charge of the weight enforcement, they're required in order to keep the money to protect that investment. So there's going to be some level of that. It's just how we do it in a common sense way.
It is amazing because this is just talking shop here. People don't understand how that some of the rules and regulations of federal. I remember when we had the Buckle Up campaign and things such as that. People never understood. They would get mad at us because we had some of the ads on, but everybody else had them on billboards, television, newspaper, everything else. But because we were political, they wanted to attack us for that. But the fact is that MDOT got the money and had to do it from the feds, and it was part of the number of people after the survey that buckled up. Our rates would have been lower.
That's right.
So people didn't understand that. All they hear is one thing, and that's what they want to believe.
Unfortunately, we can't have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Well, in parting shot here, I know that you're going to be in some meetings today and talking about basically the 2022 agenda and some things going on.
Yeah, the way that we're funded. I mean, I think that it's important for us to look at how we fund our transportation infrastructure, how much of the fuel tax that doesn't come to MDOT that maybe we should receive.
Where does it go?
Well, there's other state agencies that receive portions of it. There's other lines out of our appropriations that get it. And, you know, in the whole scheme of things, we may not be talking about gigantic money, but I still think that it's worth reviewing where we are and trying to make sure that the funding mechanism that we have is the most efficient and effective way that we can have it for us.
Good thing to know that the sales tax debate is not going to affect you one way or the other as far as sales tax are concerned.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay as far away from that as possible.
Well, but, you know, sooner or later, I remember, 2 years ago, they put the bill in there for the hybrid to cost them a little bit more as far as the tag is concerned, or what to make up for that. We got to address that sooner or later. The more electric vehicles are on the road, these people get a free ride.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I guess that's my point. Times are changing.
Yeah,
we're moving into electric vehicles. You're moving into where drones are going to start delivering things, which are going to take delivery trucks off the highway. In many ways, the fuel tax is becoming somewhat antiquated to a degree, and so I think it's time for a conversation just to say, how are we going to fund this? And I'm not advocating one way or another, but I think we need to have that conversation.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. This is a perfect example of that. Sooner or later, you want a road, it's got to be paid for.
That's right.
Always good talking to you, sir.
Always good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Safe on your travels, and we'll talk to you again soon. Brad White, who's the executive director